Good morning. I'm John Zidan, and this is my co-host, Harry Kimes. Welcome to another edition of Retirement Matters. It's been a while since I've been here, and I apologize, but I've been fighting off all of the information that you've been hearing about the healthcare bill and also about the financial reform bill and about the taxes that are about to be incurred on all retirement people somewhere in the neighborhood of 2011. Harry, do you think that's a big concern?
Well, I think it's a big concern to everybody, but particularly to retired people. We're living on, fixed incomes, and it sounds like all they want to do is tax a few people that have more money than they know what to do with. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable, but I think as we dig into it, I'm sure you've got some ideas on the impact that that's going to have on all of us.
Well, I heard from a little bird, someone that represents our government officials, that will accept any tax decrease, even the rich. And it was interesting when they defined the rich. The rich was people that were at $250,000, Harry. Does that seem like the rich to you?
That seems a long way from what we consider to be wealthy people.
I mean, if you have a family of four and say someone's bringing in $125,000 and the other one's bringing in $125,000, by the time you include inflation and taxes, it doesn't sound like the rich to me, you know?
No, it certainly doesn't.
I seem to recall a certain person saying, no new taxes. Isn't that kind of what we heard?
We heard that a lot a few years ago.
This actual program is to try to enlighten and educate people. And remember a couple things. November is a very important date this time. November is very important because if you remember, we all went to the town halls. We all opposed the health care bill. We all gave them what we thought was important for them to listen to us, because the people that we elect are supposed to take our best interests at heart. And as we could see, that kind of fell on deaf ears, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
So I think the most important thing we want to remember is that we have a tendency when we go to the voting booth, we know who the President of the United States is, we know who the Vice President is, and sometimes as we continue to go down there, we may see a sign in the yard or something and we will say, oh, they're doing a good job for us, or this person's name rhymes with this or something, and we basically run into some types of misunderstanding exactly what we're doing. So what I'd like to do is make sure that everybody out there really starts to research a little bit and get on the internet and get some facts on what's actually happening. As I always tell people, I'm not a Republican and I'm really not a Democrat. I'm a retired carrot. Okay? I believe the Tea Party is very important because the Tea Party expresses our rights. It's something that we want to believe in, and the only party that I think is correct is what the Constitution of the United States says. The forefathers that fought for our country, and unfortunately, the Constitution is being ripped to shreds right now.
Well, the Tea Party is putting a lot of pressure on both the Democrats and the Republicans. As an example of some of the primaries here on Tuesday. Republicans were pushing one candidate, the Tea Party disagreed, pushed another candidate who won, and unseated a government official who had been in politics for well over 40 years, and it was one of those guys who couldn't lose, and all of a sudden he did lose. So I think the people are understanding that it's time for some changes in both parties, and hopefully that's what we're seeing.
I think the most important thing is we hear a lot of things and where somebody that represents the Tea Party that's running for a position, we're always being told that we're bad, or that there's some conspiracy theory, or there's some terrorists or something, and that we're all bad and we're all going to try to start some kind of riots or something. And the most important thing is we're not. All we're trying to do is stand up for our rights. And I think some of the most important things are, how is this going to affect retired people? And there's a lot of people similar to you. You've worked very hard, you've accumulated a lot of assets, and it's just not fair to have someone pull the rug out from underneath you. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with people some information. And the biggest thing that I see coming out right now is on these chain emails. Oh, don't listen to that. Oh, that's all ridiculous. You know, that's not ever going to happen. That can't ever happen. That's not true. And of course, the reason that that's coming forth is because November's around the corner. And don't be fooled, okay? Realize that the person that basically explained to us that there wouldn't be no new taxes, we're pushing the door on October here.
Right.
Okay. How long have we had to repeal the federal estate taxes? It's ridiculous for people to sit there and say, "Oh well, things will probably change, you know, by October, November." How long have we had the supposedly repeal of the federal estate tax? You know, it's just not right. So the first thing that I want to explain to people is the impact of these tax hikes. Effective January 1st, 2011, something very important. Does anybody you know happen to have money in the stock market, Harry?
Yeah, I know several people who do have money in the stock market.
Do they possibly use the money in the stock market to supplement their pension and Social Security?
Yes, they do.
Now, it's a fact that the loss in the market can actually have an effect on somebody's retirement, correct?
Of course.
What about actually having to pay more in taxes after they have loss or gain? I mean,
Well, again, you know, most of us are living on what we've accumulated during our working years, and anything that diminishes what we have just makes it a little bit tougher for us to live the retirement we'd like to live.
the first tax hike, it's important. The capital gains tax rate on investments is currently at 15%, okay? It's going to 39.60%.
That's more than double.
Now, the thing that people need to realize, that's almost 162%. You know, I mean, that's insane. And what is the effect, and how can we help retired people protect their assets, is to kind of give them a little bit of a forecast. And one of the things that I've done is, in fact, if we have a tax hike, not only on capital gains is 15%, okay, and it's going to 20%. Okay, the dividends, which are a lot of retirement people that depend on the dividends on stock, that's going to 39.60%. Can that have an effect on your stock market? Yes, it can have an effect on your stock market. And I have a little chart that I did some numbers on, and I wanted to explain to people that if this dividend tax goes into effect, you're looking at stock prices that could drop by more than $211 billion.
That's huge.
I mean, that's beyond. And what I did is, if the dividend tax rate is increased from 15% to 39.6%, households, nonprofit organizations, and corporations, 77 million drop. Mutual funds, 43 million. Foreigners, 26 million. Private pension funds, 26 million. State and local government employee retirement funds, 16 million. Life insurance companies, 13 million. Exchange traded funds, 6 million. Property casualty insurances, 2 million. Federal government retirement, 1 million. State and local governments, 1 million. Security brokers, 1 million. Closed-end funds, million. Federal government, 669. Commercial banks, 345 million. Monetary authority, 253 million. Funding corporations, 253. And saving institutions, 217 million. This is serious, okay? And the thing you have to realize is the people that run our country are supposed to be getting us out of this, okay? And it's a fact. When you do things and you raise taxes, it creates huge chaos. I mean, my prediction, which is a forecast, which is pretty much sitting right there, is 2011 is going to be disaster if this takes effect.
Well, you know, the thing that I think concerns everybody is, you know, we're talking about all these tax increases. We all know that we don't have the money to pay our bills. We're borrowing money to pay the government debts. But we don't hear anybody that's saying we've already implemented or we plan to implement spending cuts to offset some of these issues. All we hear is we've got to raise the taxes. Somewhere in there, there's got to be some spending cuts.
I mean, this all pretty much came from the fact that the banker takeover. I mean, and the bottom line is the clients the customers and the retired people are getting hit with this. And one of the most important things, higher taxes on dividends will reduce the value of all corporate stocks. It's pretty much guaranteed, okay? And we have to be careful with that. Number two, the lowest rate, people out there that barely have ends meet to scrape by, the 10% tax bracket is going to 15%. That's huge.
And if you're sitting there living on a fixed income, which most of us who are retired are, we've got those assets, we've got, whether it's $100 a month or $200 a month that we're pulling out, all of a sudden we're going to have to more than double that just to keep pace, which means our retirement funds run out sooner.
You're right. The other thing that's going to happen is the other rates are 10 goes to 15, 25 goes to 28, 28 goes to 31, 33 goes to 36, 35 goes to 39. The highest, 39%. That's insane. And the thing we have to realize is that higher taxes on marriages and families. How much higher are we going to go? Okay, it's ridiculous. The child tax credit, which is important to a lot of people, will be cut in half from $1,000 to $500 per child. Okay, the standard deduction will no longer be doubled for married couples relative to single. Significant other couples, that includes you too.
I guess.
The dependent care and adoption tax credits will be cut. And the most important thing, the return of the death tax. And I think I explained it to you guys years ago. Be careful, because when someone says they're going to abolish something, and they don't, and you continue to go year after year after year, just look at all the people out there that own small businesses, and all of a sudden their husband dies, and now you have the woman, and maybe she's not the one in charge, and all of a sudden the children that represent the mother that now is in charge of the business, they don't have any understanding the impact of this. And simply put, let's say that someone has a business and it's doing okay, but all of a sudden, someone, the father dies, and all of a sudden the mother, she's alive, and she doesn't fully understand all this, and eventually she dies. So the children do inherit the business for $1 million. There's no federal estate taxes, but there was $500,000 in a 401k or something. What is the impact of that? Well, the impact of that is 55% of everything over $1 million goes straight to the government. And I think we really need to express our concerns, because we're being taxed on everything we do. We're being taxed on not just the fact federal and state taxes, we're being taxed for every other possible tax you could think of. School taxes, property tax, they're all separate taxes. There's another one which is under the healthcare, the Medicare tax. The Medicare tax is 3.8%, okay? On any dividends, any royalties coming in off of rents, they're going to charge the retired people for this. That's an addition to federal and state taxes. And that's basically to fund what? To fund the banker takeovers, to fund the people that lost and should have lost, but instead the American public is the one that's got to foot the bill?
When you look at that on top of